Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Business as a Magical Practice. We have a very, very special guest today. I am here with Krystal Woods, who is a human design expert who helps entrepreneurs build a business and life that aligns with their human design. She also offers a group mentorship program called Embodied Entrepreneur to teach business owners about human design and how they can apply that knowledge into their business and life to create greater flow, ease, and alignment. Welcome, welcome, Krystal.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank
I
you for
love chatting
being
with
here.
manifestors all
I
day
know.
long.
So we're both manifestors, and I'm hoping this conversation doesn't like completely go into just a conversation about manifestors, but we'll see what happens. I don't think it will.
Totally.
Um, so I wanted to start off with just like super basics of what is human design for people who do not know what it is.
Yeah. So I've heard it described as like astrology on steroids. It's it does incorporate astrology, but basically it's this beautiful fusion of ancient wisdom and modern science all married together in this little ball of energy. But it includes Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, which is an ancient text, the Book of Changes, also the Kabbalah tree of life, and the Brahmin chakra system. So, and then also it takes into consideration like genetics and quantum physics, right? And it's like this big fusion. And basically, when you run your human design chart, you see like almost this map, and you can see how it's definitely drawn from the chakras because there are these different shapes that represent the energy centers. And there are all these lines and numbers. And basically, what it's telling you is it's giving you a map of your energetic blueprint that you were born with. And it never changes as long as you shall live, right? So it's very different from like a Myers-Briggs personality test or the Enneagram, which is so hot right now, right? It's totally not that because it's not subjective at all. It's completely objective. It is your energetic blueprint. Um, and it really describes sort of your energetic flow. It can, in business, describe your leadership style, your voice. And it also tells us where you are amplifying energy from your environment. It tells us so much about you, and of course, there's sort of like the nature versus nurture. This is the energy that you were born with, and the way that you will play that out is highly dependent on your environment, of course. But yeah, it's just this beautiful system that can give you so much knowledge about yourself on this much deeper energetic level, and it's such a gift. I could keep talking forever about it, of course, but in a nutshell, that's what human design is.
So for people who have never heard of it before, what are their first steps?
So you want to run your human design chart. It's determined by your date, time, and place of birth, so similar in that way to astrology. So you can go to my website, krystalewoods.com, to do this, or there are a few other sites. If you just Google human design chart, you can get it for free. You definitely want to have an accurate birth time. If you don't have an accurate time, some things just may be off. So, like your type, which is one of the most broad pieces of your human design, might be correct, but some of the deeper layers might be off if you don't have an accurate birth time. But you'll want to run your human design chart. And then there are lots of different ways that you can go down the human design rabbit hole. You can just be Googling things forever and ever. There are lots of different resources out there. I have some as well, but it's an incredible system. But definitely getting that chart is the first step.
I would be careful about going down the rabbit hole.
Me too.
Well, I mean, I'm all for research spirals, but I'm more talking about I've been turned off to some aspects of human design if you find the wrong person to tune into who shares more disempowered messages and will like actually like condition you to like think about yourself in a certain way that is not useful or like beneficial for your future.
Oh, totally. I mean, basically, this information, this system was transmitted through this man named Ra Uruhu in Ibiza, Spain. And this man, the way that he transmitted this system and the way that he spoke a lot about about a lot of these human design aspects was a little bit disempowering. I don't even want to give examples because I don't want people to be like, "Ah."
Mhm.
And I'll say this about him. It's like, on the one hand, I kind of get it because the way that he wanted to give this information was to shake people up, make them think differently, make them wake up to just the ways in which we are so very deeply conditioned, right? So I kind of get it. But now we're moving into this new stage of the knowledge where we really don't need to be disempowered like that. And a lot of us, like you and I, we're very self-aware already, and so when we find a system like this, we don't need to be shaken up so much in that way. We need to feel empowered with it. So it's definitely a goal of mine as a human design practitioner is to, give it to you in a way that's useful and applicable. Because if I give you information that is disempowering, how is that going to be useful? It's not. It's just going to be really discouraging and you're going to set it down like you did. So, yeah. And also, human design is such a hot topic now that there are a lot of people who are going down the Google rabbit hole for 3 hours and then changing their Instagram profile to human design expert. And like, um, you know, I'm not trying to dog anybody, but I'll say that I have been studying human design every single day for over 2 years, and I still don't want to call myself an expert. Like, there's so much to learn. There's so many layers, and really the biggest part of human design and your ability to transmit the information is actually living it and experimenting with it in your life, in your business. And until you've really done that, I don't think you should be sharing any information with anyone, you know?
Mm, totally. So there is so many different aspects to human design from like the type and the strategy, and then there's gates and channels and all this crosses and signs and a billion different things. As some for a busy person who like doesn't necessarily want to be a student of human design but wants to like pull information that is extremely practical for their business and being a business owner, what are some tips that you have?
Yeah. So no matter how far down this like tunnel of information that you go, you always want to keep in mind, you want to embody your strategy and authority first and foremost and always, because your strategy is, it's not your business strategy, it's more like your energetic strategy for life. Okay, so for manifestors, this is to inform but also to initiate. We really are here to bring things into form. We're here to initiate new ways of being and doing. And the way that we do that with the least resistance is informing. So we initiate and inform. That is, no matter what we're doing or how we're being, that's going to be something that we embody, right? For projectors, it's wait for the invitation. And I think this is one of those things that can be really disempowering for projectors because they're like, what? I just have to wait around. And I'm like, just this is a way of being. This is a way of you really seeing your gifts and really trusting in yourself and your ability to be discerning about how you're spending your energy. And so waiting for this invitation, not necessarily a formal invitation like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? But more like this invitation into something. It doesn't necessarily have to come from another person, right? So, but it's this way of being. And for generators and
Well, wait,
manifesting
before you move on,
go
it's
ahead.
also such a luxurious state of being if you can like flip your mind around it of like, no, I'm just gonna stay here and like life is gonna come to me and I'm just gonna like it's like almost like this queen on her pedestal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I it is so beautiful. And actually when I learned about human design, I very much thought that I was a projector before I ran
Mm.
my chart. With that's a whole other story. My mom's a projector. I think that had a lot to do with it. So, but yeah, like I was running my business like a projector and nothing was happening at all, right? Like nothing was happening. When I learned that I was a manifester, I started initiating things more and not waiting around. And like it just, in the last year of really me embodying this has started to take off. So yeah, it's definitely, but being a projector, I mean, I find myself wanting to do that all the time.
Mm.
Like, oh, someone I kind of want to, I kind of want to work with that person. I'll just wait for them to come to me. And I have to be like, wait, what? No, I can't be waiting around for stuff. So yeah. And then generators and manifesting generators are wait to respond. That's their strategy. And I know they get so frustrated with that. But it's the same. It's like it's also realizing that you're constantly responding. Like generators and manifesting generators are here to respond, and that's what they do all day long. They wake up and, they have bad breath and respond with brushing their teeth. They are thirsty, they respond with drinking some water. So it's like for generators and manifesting generators, I always say, pay attention and respond. Because the problem a lot of the time is that we get so much in our heads that we're not paying attention to what's happening, and opportunities are just passing you by because you're
Mm.
not even opening your eyes to what's in front of you. So, and then reflectors, theirs is different. Theirs is wait a lunar cycle. And for reflectors, without going into like so much detail, they're just these very rare, open, um, energetically fluid beings. And so they go through these cycles all throughout the month. They're extremely connected to the cosmos and to the lunar cycle. And so being able to really flow with these different cycles and feel the changes in their own energy and their own persona, even, and then really being patient before they move or make decisions or really do anything. It doesn't have to be so dogmatic as, like wait 28 days exactly, but like being able to feel out all these different cycles before making any moves is really important for them. So knowing this sort of energetic strategy that you are to embody, and then knowing your authority, which is your inner GPS, it's your decision making mechanism that you were born with. Knowing how to tap into those two things, no matter what you end up learning when you dive into your profile, your incarnation cross, your energy centers, all these different things, like you mentioned before, you're always falling back to the strategy and authority. You're always falling back to who you are and how you make correct decisions, because life really is just a string of decisions. And when you know how to make the correct ones for you, you know where to go. You know what to do. You're constantly being guided. And so I always tell people, like, master the strategy and authority. However you decide to do that is up to you. If you find a guide or a mentor to teach it to you, you buy a course or whatever. But mastering your strategy and authority is like king in the human design world.
That's exactly why I reached out to Krystal. I was like, "Oh my gosh, an emotional manifester that's teaching human design." You don't
Yeah.
see many of those, right?
No, it's a lot of projectors teaching
Yeah,
human design.
yeah.
They're the guides. They're the teacher guide archetype almost. They're
Mhm.
really here to be guides, and they really have this need to be seen and recognized. So if you go on Instagram, It's a lot of projectors wanting to be seen and be visible through Instagram and be able to teach and guide their people into human design. And that's, um, you know, I have a different style, obviously, as an emotional manifester, but yeah, there's lots of projectors out there.
Mhm. No, I see that. It's so true.
Mhm.
So one thing I was thinking before we jumped on here that would be fun to talk about. Oh, but we didn't. Do you think we should go through strategy or authority or?
We can. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that if you know your authority, like you can't ever be steered wrong. So obviously in business, this plays a huge part.
Mhm.
Um, Half of the world is like us. Half of the population are emotional. And emotional authority, like we are constantly somewhere on a wave, an emotional wave. We might be feeling neutral right now, but then, out of nowhere there's like a spike and we're like high on life, and then out of nowhere it's like oh my god, I quit. It's the we're always somewhere on the wave. And so when it comes to making decisions, any big decision or emotionally charged decision, it's so important for us as emotional authority to wait out the wave. Feel the highs. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this, I have to do it. And realizing that you're on a high and be like, actually, I'm just going to like pump the brakes and sleep on it. And then you might feel a low, like, oh no, how could I do that? Like maybe you get a little bit of imposter syndrome or something. Then you go on your low, and then waiting out the low, not attaching to any particular point of the wave until you get to your neutral spot. And then you have this emotional clarity of like, okay, yeah, I know I'm afraid, but I'm also excited, but I feel neutral right now. And it feels like a yes. It's like waiting it out. And then sacral authority. Next most common is sacral authority, and only generators and manifesting generators will have this authority, but it's this very in the moment yes or no. And it comes from the gut. And a lot of times it's like, an uh-huh or uh-uh. Like, is your husband what is he, a manifesting generator?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So like for him, it's like it's not, hey honey, what do you want for dinner? It's, hey honey, do you want spaghetti for dinner? And he's gonna be like, yes or no. Like he loves those yes or no questions. I have a manifesting generator and two generator children. So I'm very familiar with the sacral response, but it is in the moment you have your answer. And then there's splenic authority, which is like this much quieter. It's very attuned to safety and danger. So for your splenic authority, it's like you're presented with a decision and you get like maybe a chill down your spine, or just like this very quiet, intuitive message, and you can't articulate it. There are no like words or thoughts that go with it. It's just a feeling in your body. And so honoring that, I think a lot of my splenic authority clients, it's a process of quieting the noise so you can tune into that. And then some of the less common authorities are ego authority. And then there's outer authority. So these are like mental projectors.
Mm.
There's self projected authority, self projected projectors. And then there's lunar authority, which is just reflectors. So those authorities are much more rare. Um, but there's a lot of talking involved, and ego authority requires this very healthy balance of work and rest. And it also requires being tuned into what's in it for them when they're making a decision. So if it's a business decision, like what am I getting out of this? Do I feel energetically supported in doing this and saying yes to this? Or am I going to completely leak my energy? Like, so tuning in those ways. And there are great questions that you can kind of ask for each authority when you're trying to make a decision. But those are the authorities, and those are those like, that's the inner GPS I was talking about.
Mhm. Okay. So now I get to
It's
do
a
it.
lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is a lot, but
Just those
I mean,
2
it's a
things.
lot to explain, but if you're just like, "Oh, I just need to pay attention to mine, and I just need to plug my birth time into a chart and, like, figure out what's mine."
Yeah. Yeah. It's I
Yeah.
mean, we love to overthink everything,
Mhm,
obviously. Like we humans, we have these giant brains that just love to think. But when it comes down to it, following your strategy and authority is all about tuning into the body. It's all about observing your thoughts, observing your emotions, observing the way in which your environment affects you. But at the end of the day, you know how to tune in and you know how to be guided from that like higher knowing.
mhm. Well, so one thing that really has I'm holding on to and working with right now after talking with you is because I have a bunch of there's like open maybe we need to go into open versus not open centers, but like what it really helped me is I'm trying to prompt you, but I'm doing a bad job at it. The importance of clearing
Yeah.
centers on a daily basis. I've been like really trying to be vigilant about that, and I'm already seeing like a spectacular difference in energy levels and
Oh, great.
creativity. So I'd love you to like actually put to words what I'm trying to say that no one can understand right now.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. So yeah, so when you like let's say you just got your chart. You just put in your information, you got your free chart, you're looking at this like weird map and there are all these like triangles and squares and some of them are colored in and some of them are white. The colored in ones are your defined centers. The white ones are your undefined or open centers. And basically your defined centers, that's where you have this really consistent energy. It's where you're not as influenced by your environment because it's so very much you. You can think of it almost as like this neural pathway that's lit up in your brain, and the energy, it travels back and forth consistently over and over again, right? And that's why um a lot of times it takes so much repetition to create new neural pathways because the old ones are so ingrained. It's like that. So those are your defined centers. That's you. It's so consistent. The open centers or undefined centers, the white ones, those are where you're absorbing and amplifying energy from your environment. So for you as a manifester, I know that you have an undefined sacral center because that is, you know, flagship manifester. Your husband is a manifesting generator. So I know right away that he has a defined sacral center. So that means that you are going to be absorbing and amplifying his sacral energy whenever you're around him. So that sacral energy is like this buzzing life force responding energy. And it goes. It's like a battery, right? It's this battery that just goes and goes and goes until it can't go anymore. And so as a manifester, your energy flow is very different. But when you're around your husband, it's almost like you're running on this borrowed energy and you're amplifying it. You're amplifying this buzzing energy. And so you feel like you can keep going. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll just have a little bit of coffee and we'll just keep going. And like, I'm in flow and I'm just going to go, 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 go. And then suddenly, maybe he leaves the room and you're like, whoa. And it's like a ton of bricks. And you are like, I am exhausted, right? It's this, it's like you don't even realize that you're burning the what's the expression? Burning the candle on both ends. It's this very typical tendency to overwork, and manifestors, projectors, and reflectors, we're all undefined sacral. And so we really do have this tendency to not know when to stop. And it's not just work, it's other things too. Maybe you're in a relationship that kind of stinks, but you just don't know when to quit. You just don't know when to stop. So, but it's for all the different centers, they all represent different things. Like I think you have an undefined root center too. So that's this pressure to be doing and this like you just are like, "Oh, I have to get through this whole list before I can relax. Like I have to do all these things before I can sit down." And it's this intense physical pressure that you feel to do all these things. because you're absorbing and amplifying this energy, right? And when you do that for so long without having awareness of it, without clearing it out, it becomes a part of you. You identify so strongly with these ways of being. I, my entire life, have identified as a workaholic, and I was like, it's just the way that I am. In fact, it is not. It is me absorbing and amplifying energy from my environment and identifying with it so strongly that I think it's part of who I am. But if it was part of who I am, I would enjoy it, and I don't, right? So it's really just so eye-opening and life-changing to understand where you're absorbing and amplifying energy and how to clear it out. And alone time is essential for that. Essential. No matter who you are, no matter your type, you need to have alone time to clear out the energy that you're absorbing.
I've also been like, because I like Kundalini yoga, but for the last few months I haven't really been doing it because I don't know, other things, I get bored.
Mhm.
But I've been like, okay, this is my daily commitment to clearing out my energy centers. Like, yes, I can do this for less than 10 minutes a day, and I can like this is a part of like my energy maintenance. And maybe I'm lost, but I think it's working.
Yeah, I think even just bringing the intention,
Yeah.
like I've always loved being physically active. I love working out. I was a competitive dancer my whole life. Like I've loved dancing, whatever. And it's like, as soon as I bring the intention of clearing energy while I'm moving my body, it brings a whole new quality to the movement.
Mm.
So like I also say affirmations when I work out. It's really funny to be in the room with me when I'm working out because it's
I
like
hope you have a video online of this.
I used to be like a fitness coach.
Oh,
So I used to post those videos all the time. I didn't do affirmations
wait,
then,
are
but I
you
do
open
now.
spleen?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No. But yeah, so I'll be like, oh, I'm clearing the energy. Like I use my breath, I use my body. It's when you said the other day you posted about like rituals
Mhm.
in your business and sort of like I was like, that's one of my rituals. Like my workout is a ritual for me. It's how I clear energy. It's how I embody the energy that I want to feel for the day, like whatever. Not to get off topic, but um, just bringing this intention to whatever your energy clearing ritual is.
Mhm.
For some people, it's taking a bath. For some people, it's having an orgasm. It's even just taking a walk or talking or singing or kundalini. Like there's so many different things that you can do, and it matters less what you do and it matters more how you do it and the intention that you bring to it. But clearing out energy every day will definitely change your life.
Well, and I love what you said around it being so one of the many reasons it's so important is because you need to understand what is your energy and what is not your energy. And like if you
Yes.
have all of those open centers and you could actually be channels for different things or being able to sense things in other people or other environments only after you know what's yours and what's not, because then you can't actually have like a clear picture of what's going on unless that is the case.
Yeah, if you don't have the awareness. And that's why human design is such a powerful tool because a lot of times, especially the people that I work with a lot of really self aware, spiritual kind of people who have this awareness. But when they learn about human design, it's like putting a map and a system and words to everything that you've known intuitively, but haven't known how to articulate. It solidifies everything. So it's like, I knew that I was feeling anxious or I knew that I was feeling this physical pressure, but I didn't know how to say that. I didn't know how to I didn't know that it was that because of this energy dynamic with my partner.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like this beautiful tool in that way.
Mhm. I love that so much.
Hmm.
So how can we maybe this is way too broad of a question. We'll see. Um how can we use human design to like create or design a business that is perfect for us.
Yeah. Um, I'd never use the word perfect, but
Perfect.
a business that's like very aligned with our
Yeah.
energy, right? Yeah, I think there's so many different things to consider, but like in my mentorship program, Embodied Entrepreneur, for instance, we're learning all these different elements of human design, not just to learn the elements of human design, but to really get this clear picture of who you're here to be, the energy that you're here to embody. What's consistent for you? What's your path of least resistance? Because when you really get it and you really just start to embody that, when you go through your day and you make business decisions while you're embodying this energy, not only does it give you this like very clear confidence in who you are and what you're doing, but it also brings this new quality where you're like, say you're launching something, like, and I had to learn this the hard way quite a few times, but you realize that even though, business coach Becky and, everybody else is launching this way and that it has brought them so much success, you're like, yeah, but I'm a 1-3 emotional manifester. And like, that's not my sauce. Like, this is it. And you do it with so much confidence that confidence and that honoring your own unique energy flow is so incredibly magnetic. And people are like, I want a piece of that, you know? So learning all the different things is definitely helpful. But I would say, like, at the very least, really understanding and embodying that strategy and authority, because that is how you will make the right decisions for you in your business. That would definitely be the first step. But your incarnation cross, that will tell you a lot about your sort of life theme, and I guess like your purpose, like the purpose that you be. And these channels and gates and whatever, like I said, that's where your consistent energy is. So if okay, this is my sort of life theme or purpose, and this is where my consistent energy is, and you can channel that into whatever your business is. And it gives this very like potent quality, like energetic quality to it. Your profile, I love diving into the profile as like your leadership style. Your leadership style is going to be totally different from mine. You're a 5-1. I'm a 1-3. I'm in the trenches with people. You are like the general, you know? So like if we're in battle, you're the general. I'm like, I'm working for you, but I'm down here with the people, So like there are knowing these things, I just feel like it gives you so much confidence. Like, yeah, I love how you show up and speak on social media and how you lead your people. I love that about you, but I can't copy that because it's not who I am. And when you really, really know that, it's so powerful and magnetic.
That's so good. Well, and then another thing we were talking about before we hit record, there was like a full on conversation before I hit record. I should have just saved it, but I have been experiencing as I found human design 7 years ago ish. And yeah, it's been 7 years ago. It's 8 years ago. And I dropped it for a long time because of some disempowering messaging that I was like, don't want to pay attention to this. But now that I'm like reawakening to it, paying attention to it more, I'm realizing how businesses and teams of business, they can be like these little communities or these little like packages of like a new way of working with human design. Because okay, I'm a manifester. I have one generator working with me. I don't know the human design of the other girl that works with me, and I don't know, like what sort of like requirements do employers have? It's a great line. I'm so curious. But
Yeah.
being able to like feel my energy and be like, okay, this is my role in this team, and that's her role in this team, and we can keep building from here. It feels like we're fulfilling a purpose.
Yeah. Well, and not only what is her role on my team, but knowing like, here's her consistent energy, here's her leadership style. I want to empower her
Yeah.
to feel that she's living out her purpose
Yeah.
and really utilizing her gifts
Yeah.
in a powerful way.
Mhm.
How can, like, how can I as a leader really empower my employees
Yeah.
to also be leaders?
Mhm.
And really understanding their leadership style, really understanding where their vulnerabilities might be, right? Like I have a defined heart center. So most people have an undefined heart center. Most people fall into this cycle of really feeling like they need to prove themselves.
Mm.
Now, if I have employees who have an undefined heart center, that's going to be amplified around me.
Mm.
Knowing that and being like, like the way that I talk to them, the way that I deliver what needs to be done, like that's all going to be colored by this knowledge that I have of their design so that I can empower them instead of use that against them,
Mm.
you know? Yeah. It's so powerful for teams. And like also there are these different connections that happen, right? So if you look at someone's design, um there's this channel that is all about creative self-expression and like being able to sort of like promote your art. So in business, this is like the channel of the artist and being able to promote this. Now, say you have the gate of the artist, but not the gate that's like about promoting,
Mm.
being able to promote your own art. And you hire someone on your team who has that gate. You sort of complete this channel for each other. And like
Mhm.
that dynamic can be really powerful. And if you understand it, you can use it in your business. So understanding the different types of connections that can be made energetically with people is so valuable when it comes to hiring.
Okay, well, you just convinced me
You're
that
like, I
I need
need
to learn
another
even more.
session.
I was like, "No, no, no, you just, like, come in and tell my people what they need to know," but now I'm like, "Oh, shit. I need to know a lot more."
Yeah, it's like there's so much, and I forget sometimes how much there is until people ask me questions, and I'm like, I cannot answer that in a minute.
Mhm. Well, and
Like I
it
do,
also, like, it feels so much more powerful than, like, astrology to me, which I also love astrology, is it shows more of this interconnection between all of us and how we can, like, come together and how different people affect you differently, and it's not just about your past trauma, it can, like, be about all of this other stuff.
yeah, yeah. I'm getting more into astrology now, oddly enough, because I really do love that too. But yeah, I don't know, human design feels more concrete to me,
Mm.
feels more sciency. I don't know. Like, what is the word I'm looking for? I'm not sure,
Well,
but
like,
it's
I
like,
mean, but how much of that is because it was discovered in the 90s? It was the 90s, right? It was discovered in the
or
90s versus,
late
like,
80s or
millennia ago, and there's been that many millennia
right.
of conditioning and different interpretations and, like, reinventions of astrology as a subject versus this new
Mhm.
discipline birthed into the world a few decades ago.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I never thought about that, but for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's powerful stuff, man.
it is. I love it so much. So, this podcast is called Business as a Magical Practice, where we don't only use magical and spiritual practices to boost our business, but we also use our business as a tool for soul evolution.
Mhm.
Can you tell us how you do this for yourself?
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, do you know Tori Washington?
I do. Mhm.
Yeah, love her. But she says like your business is your spiritual awakening, and I
Oh,
like
that's such a
resonate
good
so.
line.
Yeah, I resonate. That's like her tagline, right? I resonate so deeply with that. And I mean, for me, I guess like the catalyst to me even going out and working for myself started when I got pregnant, because I was like, oh, well, as it turns out, I can't be like bartending with a giant pregnant belly. I need to figure something else out. So I kind of got into the fitness coaching through an MLM. Now, knowing who I am now, I understand why that didn't really work for me, but learning human design gave me this like newfound confidence to kind of go out on my own and start my own business. But it's so fascinating to me, like how I I feel like I've healed so much, and then I'll go and launch something, and it's like, holy crap, it's like I'm back to where I started. I
Mm,
thought that I healed this stuff, but it's allowed me, it's like, you want your business to be successful. You want your business to be impactful. You want your business to embody like your purpose, right? So, in doing all of that, it brings so much up. And so, like, the things that you'll do for your business, like, it's so funny. I think a lot of people, like, I can't tell you the last time I had like a checkup at the doctor, but I'm willing to like spend all this time and money and energy on, making sure that my business is thriving. And
mm,
it does feel like this, like a body part almost.
mm.
And so, doing these different practices, like, it really has made me so much more spiritual, or like maybe I was in there somewhere all along, but it brought this different part of me out that does these rituals and this
Mm.
spiritual stuff, and gets the akashic clearings, and does the goes and sees the psychic and whatever, and it's like,
Wait, so that you weren't that way before you started your business?
no,
Whoa.
no, no, like, I mean, like I said, I think becoming pregnant and realizing that I was gonna bring a child into the world, I was like, "Oh," like, that was a "oh crap" moment for me,
Mm,
of, like, wanting to be the best version of myself, and then realizing that I didn't actually know who that was, so I had to, like, that was, like, that really opened up the can of worms for me, and I had been a yoga practitioner for years prior, but that was really, like, the catalyst, and having a business just took it, like, 10 levels, like, just turned it all the way up, like, so my business really has been a spiritual awakening for me in so many ways. So
mm.
many ways. Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm like that weird spiritual crunchy mom.
I just assumed you were always the case. I mean, you live in
No.
Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, I've lived in Hawaii for 8 years, 9 years, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, I think, like I said, I think it was always in me. Like, I've always been drawn to things, but it never really came out until the last few years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, people who knew me, like, way back when are like, "What is happening?" But
That's fun. Wait, so what
uh-huh.
were you were a bartender, so you haven't always been self-employed. In the pregnancy was like, "Oh, now I have to work for myself."
I think I always, like, wanted to work for myself. Like, I was that employee that was like, "Oh my god, you are so stupid." Like
Mm.
like, thinking that of every boss I ever worked for, because I was like, "I my way is so much better," right? Um, and wanting to make my own rules and whatever. And, but I never really believed that that was possible. I didn't have a model for that.
Mm.
Um, and then it was my mom actually who was like, she was drinking the MLM Kool-Aid and was like, "You got to get on this with me." And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll just try it out."
I like
Um,
Kool-Aid.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I was actually like looking to apply to grad school.
Mm.
I have a BA in psych, and so I wanted to like get a PhD and like be in academia.
Mm.
Um, and then I got pregnant and just obviously didn't want to do that anymore. So, yeah, it's like very funny and beautiful and just very typical 1-3 profile how my life has like just have just stumbled along, and here I am. I never had the intention of like having a business, certainly not in human design. Like
Yeah.
what? But it's working out. It's
That's
working
awesome.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's really great. So it's a business for the long term then, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I don't see any it's like, people will ask me, "Well, oh, are you living your purpose?" I'm like, I mean, I am my purpose. My purpose is me. I can't ever not be living it. But I think the energy that I embody, the value that I bring to the world is very much associated with initiation and transformation. So right now that's through these coaching programs and, online courses and things like that. But in the future, that might change, you know,
Yeah.
I, we'll see.
I had when I first got into spirituality stuff by way of like law of attraction, as many people do.
Mhm.
um, I was so afraid to actually say what I wanted because what if I don't like it? Like what if I hate what I like, why would I manifest? I was just so afraid. I couldn't even define anything. Um and I feel like a lot of people are like that with the soul purpose. There's like such this like, well, if I get it, or if I don't get it right, then like I'm fucked. Versus like, what if like you can just your sole purpose that it is right now, it is what it is. And like the manifestation that you want, what if you get it and you hate it and then you just
Right.
want something different?
Right. Well, because people are so focused on the 3D. Like
Mm,
what is materially in front of me rather than what is the energy I'm embodying. And
mm,
like the way that that manifests materially doesn't actually matter that much, you know what I mean? So another reason why I love human design is like me being able to say like, listen, like I'm here to like have these like really unique insights, these really unique perspectives. And when I break them down in a way that's really easy to understand, I initiate people into this like transformative process.
mm,
That's it. That's my theme, you
mhm.
know? There are other things, but essentially that's my theme. And so, yeah, it's very clear to see how I'm living that out in the material world right now through my business. But, like someday I want to write a book and, there are like all these other things that I can see myself doing in the future. And also I am a 1-3, so I'm going to be stumbling along and bumping into things and people, and my life will take all these different turns, but me having this very clear confidence in the energy that I will always embody, it's this beautiful way for me to leverage that in whatever I decide to do, you know.
Mm.
I am my purpose. My purpose is not my business. I am that.
Yeah. Mm. Well, it's interesting that you said that my business is like a limb for me, because I have such a clear thought that my business is a separate entity than me. So you're like, no, business is a part of me.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's like I feel like I'm in a relationship, or I'm working on getting to feeling like I'm in a
Mm,
relationship with my business. To
mhm,
to this point, it's been so much. I've identified so much with my business, and I think a lot of people do that, but I want to be in relationship with my business as I would be in relationship to another part of me. Like, I don't know, maybe a limb isn't the best analogy, but maybe my child.
mm,
Like I'm in relationship with my child. I don't own my child. My child does not own me. We're not codependent if we have a healthy relationship, right? Like, but we can really learn from each other and help each other grow and give each other energy and feel inspired by each other. And so maybe like being in a relationship,
mhm,
a sacred, intertwined relationship with my
mm.
business, and my business gets to evolve like parallel to me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess it is a separate entity, but sometimes it really does feel like maybe I'm working on like a little bit of codependency with my business. Sometimes it really does feel like it's like an organ or something, you
Mhm.
know? I mean,
So
you've been doing it a lot longer than me, so I'm
does
sure
that feel good?
that you get it. Yeah, no, I think it's like sometimes it feels good, but it's like the emotional wave good,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
It's like it's up and it's down, it's up and it's down, you know? And being in a healthy relationship with your business is like you get to feel the ups and downs without like overly clinging to them, without overly identifying with them, you know?
Yeah.
So we're
So what
working on that over here, Sam. We're working on
well
it.
well, so one of my, my friends, who is a business owner, she once told me about when she was actually how I came to Maui. Like she had an open room in her house, invited me to just to come and live with her, and I was like, done. And
Such
she
a
had
manifesting thing to
like
do.
within 10 days of inviting me, I was there from Michigan, so like 12-hour
Mhm.
flight is fine. But she had two little children at the time. They're larger now, um, and one was like a year and a half when I was living with them, and she was talking about how it's so interesting that we have mothers, not a mother, but sure, mothers usually or parents usually have this idea of how a child will grow up. Like, oh, like you get a sense of their personality and whatever as a child, but then suddenly they start growing up and they start showing you other aspects or learning different aspects of themselves, and you can either learn from them of who they are, or you can stick them in a box of like, this is who my child is. And I think that's so much of the case of our businesses. Like
Mhm.
if we can have them as a separate entity of ourselves, like just like a child, and we're learning what it wants, how it can best grow, versus like, I'm just gonna this is your personality. You should be a doctor.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it gives us so much more freedom as our own entity to have our own energy, to take energy from our business versus like some weird thing. I'll get off my
Yeah. No, I mean, I love talking about that because I do have 2 kids, and it's, you know, human design has been a gift in that respect too, because
I
I'm able
bet.
to see.
Wait, how are you teaching your kids about human design?
I'm not teaching them just yet. I'm more just kind of like my son, he's 5. He's a 6/2 emotional generator, and he is just really he's very intense. He always has been. He's intense, he's sensitive, there's so many things about him that if I didn't have this map of his energy, I think it would be so much harder for me to really meet him where he is. You know, I would feel like, oh, I have to do this way because, you know, I have to do things this way. Instead, I'm like a silly example is that his determination is nervous touch. So basically, this means that when it's time for him to eat, like he's not going to sit down quietly at the table and eat. It's not correct for him. It's just not.
Wow.
It's correct for him to like be up and moving around or talking or um you know, listening to something, or you know, we don't do like TV that often, but potentially watching TV while he eats, right? So me being able to work with that instead of being like, oh, I have to make him sit down quietly, like this is the rule, like I'm not going to do that because that's me like conditioning him in such a deep way, you know. um yeah, so I'm not teaching my children about it, but it does allow me to meet them where they are.
Mm.
And I can do things like they're both generators, so I can ask them yes or no questions instead of open-ended questions. I can help them observe what a yes or a no feels like in their body so that they don't lose touch with that like most people have, you know. Um so yeah, it's interesting, like the way that you're talking about business though, as this separate entity and like it wants to grow and has its own sort of like persona almost. I There's this one human design person that I used to follow way back who she talks about her business as having its own human design. Like the the day that her business was born,
Mhm.
and what the human design is. And I really just like that never resonated with me, but maybe it's something I'll explore again. Um, but yeah, I think it's really interesting the way that you talk about that, like as if it's like more like being more like having a partner,
Yeah.
you know, your business
Yep.
as your partner
Mhm.
rather than your arm.
Well,
Your
okay. So think about this. And for people listening, I have a whole podcast episode on this if you want me to go deeper into it. It's called Externalized Energies. But I want to talk with Krystal about this. So I'm doing it. If you can think about this separate entity, like think about, or like a bigger business, think about Nike. Like you have no idea who started Nike. Like, I mean, there's a book on it now, Shoe Dog. Apparently it's really good. I haven't read it yet. But Nike has its own thing. It has its own reputation. It has its own money. It has its own branding. It has its own vibes. Like Nike is its own thing, and it's been able to get to this massive level because it is separate than the owner. You can do the exact same thing with a personal brand. But the personal brand, it does like you have to think of it as a separate thing than you. Like you have to like the business's money is not your money. You draw a salary and you get profits from the business, but the business has its own money. But when you start off like just with like an infant, like just when you have a little baby that like you're nursing it, like it is not living without you, like it will die. Like same with a brand new business, like
right.
you're feeding your energy, you're feeding your time, you're feeding your money into it. But eventually like it needs to grow on its own. It needs to have its own energy so that it gets to a point. I mean, it doesn't have to, but I think this is the most healthy dynamic you can have with your business is it has its own system, SOPs. It has its own team. It's not going to fall apart if you go on vacation for a month, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it's not going to die if you like leave it in its crib for an afternoon,
Right.
business needs
Yeah.
to grow, and like that's why you invest all of this so that it can grow. But like if you can view it as a separate thing that you are teaching to live on its own, you can always like work in your business forever, but it also gets to the point where it is less and less dependent on you.
Right. And I think just like a lot of parents are in codependent relationships with their children and
Yeah.
want to sort of control everything the child does and really put the child into this box, it's the same with business owners, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I do see that, like, I've never framed it in the way that you're framing it now, like with the same verbiage, but I do see it so often in um, the people who do build successful businesses. They're willing to get out of the infant stage.
Yeah.
That's a huge I feel like that is one of the biggest differences between the people whose businesses never really take off and the ones who do, is that
Mhm.
the people whose businesses don't take off, they're not willing to get out of the codependent relationship.
Mhm.
They identify too much with the success or failure of endeavors in their business. They want to put their business in a box. They're not willing to let it grow. They don't want to they're too afraid to invest. You
Mhm.
know, that's actually like a whole different subject, but like um but a lot of it has to do with like this controlling codependent dynamic that happens, and nobody grows.
Yeah.
The
Or like
business doesn't grow and you don't grow.
even people who like I'm a freelance graphic designer, or I'm a freelance whatever, like they don't even have like any sort of awareness that like they're literally their business. It's like the moms who are living vicariously through their kids, right?
Yeah. Totally.
So
Yeah, and a lot of I know a lot of freelancers who have burned out when they haven't
yeah.
recognized when it's time to 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 grow. So it's like
Mhm.
they'll either get into the burnout cycle or quit altogether because it's too much.
Yeah.
And I can see that. Like I'm a mom of two and I have a business that like I started building with an infant.
Yeah.
So it's it's exhausting. And I definitely am very intimately aware of a lot of those dynamics. I've said it a million times, I'm a 1-3. I learn everything the hard way. And I mean, it's good though. Like
Yeah.
I definitely, people are like, oh, I don't want to learn everything. I'm like, it's a gift of mine
Mm.
to be able to learn everything the hard way, because now when I help my clients with similar
Mhm.
situations in their business, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I
When you
have
know
lived
exactly how to
that.
teach them too, versus people where it's like, "Oh, I'm just good at it naturally." Like, you can't
Mhm.
actually teach that.
Yeah. No. No, I'm definitely not naturally good at it. So, it's like,
Right.
yeah. Interesting stuff. I love chatting with you.
I love chatting with you too. So
Yeah.
there's one question that I ask everyone at the end, which is what are your recent purchases for business and for pleasure that have been your favorite?
Oh God. Good question. My favorite purchases, let's see. Oh, I'm rebranding.
Ew.
Like, very exciting. Huge investment.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, "Oh my god," right? So, yeah, some of my favorite purchases have been, related to that. So,
Mhm.
hiring the photographer. I don't wanna give too much because I really do kind of want this to be a surprise.
Ew.
Um, hiring the photographer, hiring the brand and web designer, big purchases, but, like, very exciting ones, and
That's
then
so fun.
also purchasing, like, the clothes for the photo shoot has been very exciting as well. And then personally, yeah, it's hard to say. I don't remember the last thing I bought for myself that wasn't business related. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. Oh, I bought some new yoga clothes. I'm also, fun fact, I'm a Taurus. So I love like bougie athleisure wear.
What are your favorite brands?
Let's see. I just bought an outfit from Electric and Rose.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love everything tie-dye, which now is like the trend, and I'm like, oh. I've been living in tie-dye since I was a little kid. So, um, yeah, I love Lululemon, man. I really do. I'm a basic bitch in that way, but I mean, it's high quality and it's super comfy. So I love Lululemon. I love Electric and Rose. And I bought an outfit from Girlfriend Collective. Yeah, they're very like sustainable, recyclable, whatever, all that good stuff. And their stuff is pretty good too. But yeah,
Love
I'm
it.
usually living in that stuff.
That's so good.
Hmm.
I don't have enough of that stuff, so maybe I need some girlfriend collective.
Yeah, no, I really do. I mean, I also am constantly chasing my kids around, so it's
Mhm.
not like I'm not gonna put on a cute outfit every day. Like
Oh,
I'm
see, I
just
just
not.
wear the exact same thing every day. It's like
Mm. Your uniform. I have a
Uh-huh.
uniform too.
Oh, see, I blame it on Cancer Moon. It's like I just have everything in the exact multiple versions of the exact same thing in different colors, or I just wear them over and over again and it's fine.
Mhm, mhm. I do that a little bit too. I'm Cancer rising. I don't know as much about astrology, so
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that at a later date then.
okay, yeah, once I know.
So, where can everyone find you online? How can they go deeper with you?
Yeah, so check out my Instagram, Krystal E. Woods. I'm sure you'll put the link in the show notes. I do every Monday, I do mini reading Monday. It's like free little mini readings where you can send me a screenshot of your chart
Oh,
and
that's so
ask me a
fun.
question. I'm your human design oracle for the day.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fun. So Instagram for sure. That's always the best way to like stay up to date. You can also go and add yourself to my email list on my website. And whenever this airs, I don't know what my offer is going to be at that time.
So check
So
check your
check
Instagram.
me out. Yeah, check me out.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. This was really fun. I love talking with you. And Can't wait to see what else you put out there so I can engage with it.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited that we connected through the vortex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gala.
Yeah. I have to thank her again. Yeah, it's awesome chatting with you as always.